But she's had the flu for 14 days. Should she get a flu shot?
Well, no. If she got the flu for 14 days, she's as protected as anybody can be, because the best vaccination is to get infected yourself.
And
so
she should not get it?
If she really has the flu, she definitely doesn't need a flu vaccine. If she really has the flu,
she should not get it again.
No, she doesn't need it, because it's the most potent vaccination is getting infected yourself.
But she's had the flu for 14 days.
Good morning, people. Straight from the mouth of the doctor. Let me preface this. Let me just see if we're still if we're still in the green. 45 seconds in. Oh, hold on. There's some delay. We're still in the green. Straight from the mouth of Fauci. Let me know if the audio is good. We're living in a world of, I don't know. Is it post-truth or is it just post-reality? We are living in a world where I don't know we don't know what is real. We don't know what is true. We don't know what can be believed. We don't know who the experts are. We don't know what the expert advice is. It changes over time, and it changes, if nothing else, because of politics. Post-truth, good. I think I like post-truth. Dr. Fauci, first of all, I mean, he looked young. He still had spirit. It looks like, I know the older you get wrinklier, you get grayer, you get more tired. Fine. But I'm noticing with certain people, they look like they're having their souls sucked out of their body in real time. Fauci's a good example. I mean, it's one thing to get old. It's another thing to have dead eyes. It's another thing to look. It's like the what is it? The 1,000-yard stare. Except it's like the having lost your soul because you are now just dishonest. You're now post-honesty. And this is Fauci talking. I don't know. That looks like it's 20 some odd years ago. And that's what he said then. And my goodness, we know so much, but that was then. And I think that was the punchline of my response to that tweet. That was then. This is now. Things are different. We now know more, apparently. But no, that's it's just a wild world in which we live, where what was objective truth, objective science, trust the science then. If anyone were to say that now, it would be a deplatform worthy violation. And I'm not saying it. I'm just allowing the individual to say it himself. So let me just preface this stream now. No legal advice, no medical advice, no election fortification advice. Go talk to your doctor if you have any questions. Trust your doctor. If you don't trust your doctor, find a doctor you do trust. And if your doctor flip-flops multiple times, especially in short order, you might, if you trust that, that's your doctor, I guess. We're not moving to Rumble. We are simultaneously streaming on Rumble, at least as far as I can tell. And I think I may have picked a bad time to go live this morning because Scott Adams is live. The Duran is live. And I think the Duran has, from what I saw, Gonzalo Lira on, Coach Red Pill, talking Ukraine. So if anybody's interested in that, that's what's on this morning. Hold on, I was just going to go check to see that we're live on Rumble. For the Viva Live this morning, I went live at 10 because I'm going live with Eric Hunley on his channel at noon. Kids get back from school this afternoon, so it's now or never today as far as it goes. And there's some stuff that I want to talk about. We're live now on Rumble. Booyah. Let's see here. David, at some point, if you end up naming these early mainstream morning live streams, might I suggest frying with Viva in the morning or something to that effect? I'm thinking of a lot of things, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to do the schedule is random. The schedule is varying, and I cannot commit at this point of the year, at this point of my life as a parent to, I can't commit. So it is what it is. It may not be ideal. And there's a number of people out there who are saying Viva, we miss the Viva in the car vlogs. You know, the long format's nice, but it's not for everybody, and I appreciate it. But there will always be people. First of all, these are infinitely small amounts of critique on one end or the other. When I did the law vlogs in the car, I always had people saying, Viva, why are you shouting at me for 10 minutes with a hyperactive, you know, supercut video? Slow it down. So we will never be able to please everybody. But right now, the evolution of the channel is such that this is what I have the time for. This is what I genuinely think people are more interested now in sitting down, longer format, discussing multiple issues. And from my perspective, spending 5 hours to do one 10-minute video, it's not an efficient use of physical time or intellectual time. So today, we're going to have an exercise in critical reading. How to read the news, how to read the fact checks. Because the more fact checks that come out, the more you realize, and now I'm thoroughly on board. I was on board for a little while because fact checks, they're not fact checks anymore. What they are quite literally spin machines. I don't know who is behind each and every independent fact check organization out there, but now there are so many. You got PolitiFact, you got Snopes, you got Fact Check, you've got so many fact checkers out there, and they are all doing the same thing in tandem. You got AP, Associated Press, and they're all doing the same thing in tandem, where if you don't know how to read through the chicanery of the fact check, you're going to allow yourself to be manipulated and misled. So we're going to do some fact checks because there's some interesting ones where you see these fact checks. We're demonetized. All right, doesn't matter. There are so many fact checks right now, and these fact checks, once you filter through the chicanery, they're actually not fact checks. They're fact checking, and what they're saying is untrue, needs context. They're either creating a distinction without a difference, or they're actually discreetly, and I would dare say dishonestly, confirming the fact while denying it. Let me see here. Viva, watch out. This is how it starts with censorship. No, there's no question. There's no question that we've discussed the soft censorship. I've said, the demonetizing is the soft censorship on YouTube, where if someone can't monetize their work, they can't monetize their time, well, they're going to say, well, I'm going to focus on something else that I can monetize. And so it's soft censorship through economic pressure on the creator. The flip side is it's soft censorship within the YouTube system itself. Once something is demonetized, YouTube does not promote it as they would a monetized piece of content. It effectively gets suppressed. So it's still out there. And if the content creator even still decides, I'm going to invest the time because it's worth it, or I don't really care, YouTube is going to say, well, good. Now we have this demonetized piece of content, which we're not going to promote. So it's going to effectively suppress the visibility on the YouTube end. So it's a double whammy of soft censorship, in that it deters the content creator, and then it, within the system itself, it allows, incentivizes, or basically creates a system where YouTube is not going to promote it because it's not in their financial best interest. So therefore, the information itself will not get the same exposure as monetized content on monetized channels, or just monetized, platforms like big MSM. Inagada Viva. Danches, thank you very much. I don't know what that means, but it sounds all right. Did I see the fact check about Biden's? This is false because it's not just. Okay, I didn't see that one, but we're gonna get ones which they're not funny. They're not funny. They're tragic. Let me just see what was on my and then we're gonna talk law and not just reading comprehension, because we're gonna get into that Bill C-11. Someone on Twitter, M. Geist, M-G-I-S-T. Michael Geist, he's a lawyer, covering it thoroughly. I've reached out to him to see if he'll come on to do a stream to talk about Bill C-11, which is the sequel on steroids of Bill C-10, which we've talked about. I recall having maybe tagged him in a tweet or needled him in a tweet, but I couldn't find any tweet between me and him, so maybe I'm just mistaking it. But I've reached out to him, so unless he doesn't like me for some reason, if he sees it, hopefully he'll get back to me. But let's just start off with some good news. You will recall from earlier this week, we had talked about Rosemary Barton, CBC News, state-funded media, criticizing a conservative politician for going before the House of Commons and saying that Justin Trudeau fits the definition. Many Canadians believe that Justin Trudeau fits the definition of a dictator. And Rosemary Barton and the other individual there from Global News said, this is reckless. This is dangerous and divisive, and he was duly elected, and you should watch your dangerous rhetoric before Parliament. So I said, well, you know what? Let's just do a poll and see if there are many Canadians. You don't need a poll to determine that anyhow. Let's just do a poll. And I appreciate it's not scientific. I've explained why I recognize it's not scientific. It's affected by my subscribers, by the followers on Twitter. It's affected by the bias of people who will see that tweet, who will interact with it. It may not be limited to Canadians, but I don't think that really makes a difference. Let's just see, of the 25,000 people, of the 4,800 retweets that this tweet got, 81% said they believe, purporting to be Canadians, that Justin Trudeau fits the definition of a dictator. 81%. And by the way, I'm going to tell you something. I'm surprised that it was that low. I would have thought it would have been over 90%. Now, the no opinion just show results, so maybe that factors in, but 81%. So make what you will of that result. Write it off if you want. Of 25,000 people who voted, I'm sure there are many Canadians there. And I believe that qualifies as confirming that which that conservative politician did not substantiate with a poll, that many Canadians do in fact believe that Justin Trudeau fits the definition of a dictator. And in time perfectly for Pierre Poilievre holding a protest in Ottawa today. And I just, jokingly said, is the government going to declare this an illegal protest? Invoke the Emergencies Act, bring in a highly militarized police to shut it down and freeze the accounts of the organizers. Are they going to do that to this protest? Britt Cormier in the House. What does he have to say? Unless he doesn't like me for some reason. Maybe that reason is you're a lawyer. No, he's a lawyer too, I think. I know you can say I no longer practice, but once a lawyer, always a lawyer in my book. LOL. I agree, but he's a lawyer too. So, there's the old expression, why don't sharks eat lawyers? Professional courtesy. So there's that. So I believe we have sufficiently confirmed through unscientific, imperfect, but nonetheless clearly determinative poll of 25,000 plus respondents. 81% believe that Justin Trudeau fits the definition of a dictator, and I therefore confirm. I forget her name, what that conservative politician said before House of Commons, as if it needed confirmation in the first place. Seize the day. God help us all. Go listen to the song by 5 Times August and his new song, This Just In, about the Ottawa protests. So I'll preface this one before we get into the fact check. I had a friend and a colleague, we crossed paths as lawyers, went to school once upon a time, my age, a little younger, passed away. Don't know the exact cause, but when anyone passes away, the immediate reflex for everyone, when anyone passes away or gets ill, the immediate reflex for everyone is to try to find a reason, try to find an explanation, try to say, why did this happen to them? And maybe you can call this confession through projection, but I'll just admit that this is my reflex as well. Why did this happen to them in order to say, okay, that's why it happened to them, so it won't happen to me? People die from lung cancer. First question is, did they smoke? Because if I don't smoke, okay, that's why it happened to them, so I'm safe at the very least from that. Died of a heart attack. Why did that happen to them? Were they overweight? Did they not exercise enough? Did they exercise too much? The irony is, like, people go into such a meticulous search for an explanation that is unique to the individual so they can feel a little bit safer themselves. Overweight, didn't exercise. Okay, fine. I'm healthy. Oh, they did exercise. Well, did they exercise too much? Did they run ultra marathons? Did they overexert themselves? Okay. And so, when bad things happen to other people, the human tendency is to say, why did this happen to them, in order to try and, create some sort of barrier as to why it can't happen for me. The recent one, and I'm sure we all understand where I'm going with this. The recent one is the tendency now is when something bad happens, people are looking for a very specific, contemporaneous explanation for why it might have happened. I'll say for political reasons, for ideological reasons, or just for neuroses reasons. So now the tendency is that anything bad that happens to anyone, prominent celebrities, friends, family, whatever, a lot of people's immediate reflex is to go back to the Fauci and say, might that explain why? For everything. The drummer for the Foo Fighters passes away suddenly, chest pains, people hypothesize. People go to what the explanation that they want to focus on and then maybe set aside the other ones, like apparently from the toxicology reports of the Foo Fighters drummer, he had upwards of 10 drugs in his system at the time. Other people are even going to be able to merge those two explanations together to say he had the 10 drugs in his system at the time, but for the one that I want to blame it on, it might not have happened. So that's the tendency now. Something happens, people look to blame, or people look to try to draw a correlation between the Fauci and the incident. Let me just go ahead and take that one down. So the most recent one, Bruce Willis diagnosed with aphasia. I didn't know what aphasia was specifically. And then reading up on aphasia, I was trying to distinguish between aphasia and Alzheimer's. My grandmother had early onset Alzheimer's, diagnosed when she was 80 some odd years old, and she lived to 103 and was still pretty lucid up until the last few years, relatively. I mean, there was some clear deterioration, but was happy and had a good life and could enjoy a smoked meat sandwich at Snowden Delicatessen. Bruce Willis is diagnosed with aphasia, which is a cognitive impairment that results in the loss of speech, the loss of understanding, the failure to understand language and to communicate. A lot of, it is, from what I understand, caused by head trauma, potentially, a stroke, potentially, and then also potentially degenerative issues. So I know, reflexively, people are going to try to draw connections between that and the other. I wouldn't have done it, and I don't believe personally that there's, in every case there's not going to be a connection. The only problem is once everyone has undergone a certain procedure, anything that happens to anyone can be attributed to that procedure. But there was just, I came across this fact check of a fact which I didn't think ordinarily would ever need to be fact checked, and reading it, I mean, you appreciate that these fact checks do potentially more damage than good to what might otherwise be the objective truth. I'm just going to pull this one up. Make sure we can see it. I mean, I don't know of the credibility of the fact check, whatever tech carp or tech harp. I don't know what it could be. Total bunk. I don't know who's behind the website. You just see another one of these fact checks pop up, and we're going to get to another one afterwards. A fact check that actually doesn't necessarily prove the fact that they're trying to contradict. Let me just do one thing here. Put that on mute. Okay, that's a call from the. So I don't know what fact check this is. I don't know what the website is, but just read this here, the claim, because people are making the claim. Bruce Willis got aphasia from, whatever. Almost immediately after the news broke, Bruce Willis was retiring after his aphasia diagnosis. People started claiming that he got it from whatever. Here we go. You got the claims. Now, it's interesting. Some of the facts you can just appreciate are true. No evidence Bruce Willis' aphasia was caused by the Fauci juice. And you know why? Because decent evidence here. He's been working in Hollywood for an extended period of time. So it was not contemporaneously like some people were passing off as misinformation on the internet. Then you get into the interesting ones here. And you'll read this. Okay? The Fauci does not cause the aphasia. Aphasia is caused by damage to the part of the brain that handles speech and language. There are many causes of aphasia, but the most common cause is a stroke. Well, then people, right now you make this statement. The fact checkers make this statement. But we know that this particular, this is one of the stated side effects on Pfizer's, long list of potential side effects. I mean, the stroke is one of the reasons why some of the substances were pulled from the market. It is also commonly seen with severe head injury, a brain tumor, or progressive neurological conditions or dementia. Okay, fine. Some people are going to say that, Bruce Willis did his stunts on his own. He obviously suffered head trauma throughout the course of his career, and that could explain it. But here, aphasia is not caused by it, but it results from a stroke. But we know that a stroke is a potential side effect. So already right now, this fact check actually, for those who want to believe or do believe what they already believe, this is actually just giving fodder to that belief. No evidence Willis got his second dose recently. This is another interesting one because you're going to see how this plays with another claim. There's no evidence he got it recently. So the claim was that, it was within a week he suffered aphasia. He's been working in Hollywood for a long time, 15 films since 2021, so probably did not recently get a dose, although who knows about a booster? Who knows? So this claim here, again, it purports to contradict a fact, but then it leaves open a window for anyone who wants to say, okay, if this is your basis for saying this, fact check, if he got a booster, then this fact here now could potentially confirm what I already believe. And this is what's amazing here. Look at this. Forget the label here. Just forget this label. People point out that aphasia is in the 9-page list. Look at this, people. Many, and they brand them. They brand them to write them off, to denigrate them so that they don't have legitimate beliefs, whatever. Many people point out that aphasia is in the 9-page AESI list that they claim as evidence of side effects claimed by the Pfizer. Okay, but hold on. Right here, it just said it doesn't cause it. So on the one hand, fact two, they say it doesn't cause it. That's fake. And then on the other hand, they say, oh, it is. They point out that it is on the list of 9-page potential side effects. So it doesn't. There's no correlation. False. Okay, fine. It's on the list that came from Pfizer itself. And then listen to this. The truth is, the list of adverse effects of special interest is actually just a generic list of adverse events that Pfizer look for. I don't believe that's true, but the list, it's included in the list. They're saying it's just a generic list. Well, no, you don't want to put more side effects than possible on any medication. There's the argument. Two arguments are going to be: it's a cover your butt, add everything in case someone gets something they can't sue you, but the company's already had immunity. Flip side argument is that no drug manufacturer wants to include additional side effects that aren't actual potential side effects. And my understanding is that the side effects that were listed on that sheet, on the Pfizer document, they're listed there because they did in fact occur. However imminently rare they were, they did in fact occur. That's why they were on the list of potential side effects. So then you got this. It didn't cause it after 7 days. True, but we have unless you go back to the prior statement, which was, it doesn't cause that, but certain side effects that it does cause could potentially lead to aphasia. I do not believe there's a correlation to this, and I think it's just people's trauma that they're now trying to correlate any tragedy with this because they try to make sense of it. But this fact check is going to actually affirm and reaffirm people's beliefs by virtue of its own logic and by virtue of its own facts, by virtue of its own citations. Millions of people develop aphasia every year. Okay. Now the question is going to be, are more people developing aphasia now than before a certain period of time? And it's just terrible because, first of all, it's like Alex Jones. Here, I'll link this in case anybody wants to read it. Take it for what it's worth. It's like Alex Jones described in his deposition, where he referred to it as a form of psychosis, where he thinks everything is a conspiracy theory. He questions everything. I don't consider it a form of psychosis, and I think Alex Jones misspoke in his deposition when he said that. I do consider it a form of trauma, a form of psychological, intellectual, spiritual trauma, where we have been lied to so much and so often by media and by experts that now, even when they say something that is correct, if it seems suspicious enough that we would question it, we now question what we would otherwise not question. And this just goes back to the curse of the liar. They can never be believed again, even when they're telling the truth. And when you know that the CBC, CNN, MSNBC, Fauci himself have said factually incorrect statements or statements that they have reversed a full 180, how do you go back to trusting them ever again? And when they do say something that is in fact correct, and you doubt it, I mean, you have your reasons for doubting it, and you have your reasons for being unable to believe anything these people say, even when it's true, because of how much incorrect or false or flipped positions they've taken in the past. Are all Western economies doomed to feudalism? I'm going to go on a venture that I'm not in a position to answer that question. I know many people ask, why did this happen? However, I think the question is flawed. Why can sneak purpose or a god? I rather the question, how did this happen? Yes, well, the how, but even the how and the why are oftentimes confounded. And then when it's, when bad things happen to good people, then you go into some sort of cosmic religious belief that bad things happen to good people. It has to happen for a reason. Otherwise, there's just no justice in the world. Serious question. I've noticed more positivity in your lexicon lately. Did you say, F it, I'm not going to let this one get to me? No, if you've noticed it, Cameron, I might say that is a reflection of you. And it's a good reflection. Maybe you have had more positivity and you're seeing it in others. If I may make a little confession, I've been feeling a little bit more negativity towards the state of the world and the state of the planet and the state of intellectual honesty and the state of politics. And I look, we all go through cycles. It's a known fact that men also have not that time of the month, but they have cycles where they are overall a little bit more down than up. You know when you're going through it, and this too shall pass, as will, life as a whole. Aphasia is a symptom, not a diagnosis. Well, aphasia results from strokes. Take it from there. Okay? And some people have micro strokes where you don't even know that you had it. And some people have more serious strokes that they survive from. And I won't get into my own life experience. I have never had a stroke, but I've had direct, meaningful experience at an immediate level. I have developed woke derangement syndrome. I like that. So that's it. It's the boy who cried wolf. And like, we are now in a position where we can't even trust the people that we're supposed to trust. And even if we should even if we should trust them, and even if they are in fact being trustworthy at this point in time, when you have Fauci come out and say, yeah, I told everyone masks were useless because I didn't want to run on the masks. So you're saying you lied to us, but you had a good reason to do it. We're going to get to this in a second right now. When there are several countries with excess deaths and the only 3 causes that have increased are no diagnosis, cardiovascular, and brain damage, it makes you think, well, I'm old enough to remember no es nada. Once upon a time, theys denied that there was excess death. They denied that there was excess death in 2021 over 2020. They denied it. I couldn't find any concrete, hard fact check. If anyone has one, please tag me and send it to me. No, total deaths are not up 2021 over 2020. I do remember them saying it for self-harm issues. No, self-harm is not up. It's actually gone down, surprisingly. Yeah, they corrected that not so fast. CBC still hasn't corrected that. And like you need someone with half a brain to tell you a lie. Oh, self-harm is down. It's a very convenient thing, even though distress calls are up 200%. They think we're stupid. And they think we'll never find out the truth. And by the time they disclose the truth, it's buried underneath their months and sometimes years of lies. So the excess deaths. On to subject matter 2. I'm gonna pull up the which one was it? We're gonna have a lighthearted break and go after Gavin Newsom. That raging hypocrite. We're gonna go after Gavin Newsom for a second for legit stuff. Here, this was one of them. I want to see if this is. I'll click on the link. This is my post on the Twitterverse, my running diary, my running real-time diary. This is from a fact checker who actually thinks they are successfully debunking misinformation. An article shared on Facebook claims deaths among boys are 83% higher than the 5-year average since the Fauci. That was the claim. Now you'll see here that there are 2 elements of the claim, which is why in law, I always say if you're going to do a good deposition or you're going to conduct a meaningful effective deposition. Don't confound multiple facts in one question, because it allows people to deny the aggregate overall statement because they can plausibly, legitimately deny one element of it. So here you have two claims. Deaths are 83% higher, and the reason for which is attributed to that. The article published, we're going to go to the actual article. This is just my highlighted. The article published by the Exposé suggests that since children over the age of 12 began getting the Fauci in September, more children in that age group, and boys in particular, have sadly passed away when compared with the average figures of 2015 to 2019. The article claims that the deaths may have been caused by a certain condition. While the article accurately reports these mortality figures, end it right there and stop right there and just understand what this fact checker just said. 83% higher than the 5-year average. They just confirmed that the statistic, not the causal connection, is true. There's no evidence that suggests any of these deaths. There's no evidence that links any of these deaths to certain conditions. Oh, and by the way, here's what they did here. There's no evidence that links it to A, B, or C. How do I go back? I don't like this. I don't want to do that. There's no evidence that links it to A, B, or C. What did they do here? If there's evidence that links it to either A and maybe B, but not C, that statement sort of becomes mildly true. It would have been better if it was and not or. But here, throw 3 things in and say there's no evidence that connects it to any of them or all of them. And if there's no evidence that connects it to one of them, it becomes a quasi-defensible statement. But the overall number is accurate. So they're not dying from what you said they're dying from. They're just dying. Sleep well tonight. The issue is what the number was, and what the you get into the numbers, the stats, what the group of analysis was. I'll click it. Full fact, by the way. Let's just go ahead and I'm going to close that down. Close this down. So here's your fact check. Here's your fact check, peeps. The number's right. Your purported reason, no evidence for. Carry on with your day. Nothing to see here. I don't know who's behind full fact. I'd like to go see who owns the website, see what organization is behind it, see what entities are behind it. I don't know. If anybody knows in the chat, I mean, this is the homework you have to do to make sure that you're not getting lied to in real time. See who's telling you what and whether or not it can be trusted. But can you believe that? False. No evidence. Oh, yeah. It's up 83% over the 5-year average ending right before all of this. But the causal connection is not there. And you know damn well that the argument is going to be, it's not related to the Fauci juice. It's related to the My Sharona Cyrus. That's what accounts for it. Good luck disproving any of that. There is no justice in the world. The universe does not owe us justice. Justice is a human concept and therefore should not expect it from the universe. Humans want justice. The universe does not care. Well, how about this? The universe created humans. And therefore, justice is therefore a universal concept above and beyond humans. Ooh, checkmate, Britt. I'm going to see what your part 2 says in a second. With names like Soros, Fauci, Schwab, Monsanto, Gates, Sinclair Broadcast, Parrot Effect, I'll never trust media again. No, you shouldn't trust anybody. Like I don't, it sounds gross and it sounds cynical. I don't trust anybody. You establish trust over time, so you know the degree of skepticism that you need to adopt for any given source. And the greater the track record of trust, trustworthy information, you can adopt less scrutiny, but not no scrutiny. Like I trust Ezra Levant. I trust Rebel News. I still verify some of the stuff that they tweet because everybody gets caught. Everybody gets caught once in a while retweeting something that's factually incorrect that they didn't know. So, but the degree of scrutiny that you adopt when scrutinizing any given source is correlative to the amount of lies or inaccuracies that they have put out in the past. Principal pondering, without going back to the car, can't you try to timestamp these longer videos? Helps if we can go just watch the part that we're interested in when we don't have time to watch 2 hours. Principal pondering. For all those who don't know, I have a second YouTube channel, Viva Clips, which is where I put the clip down highlighted versions. Yeah, we're still. I'll go. Let me just put that in the chat. I've been putting the Viva clips there, and it works. It's good. I mean, it's not as energetic. Some might even say it's digestible and not irritating. I'll put this here so you can all go. Anybody who wants to subscribe there. We're almost at 30,000 subs, and that's where I'm going to put the snipped up versions. You know, shorter clips, and also stuff that I just don't want to put on my main channel, like my montage, 5-minute montage of Justin Trudeau getting humiliated by members of European Parliament, and then having Canadian media say he got a standing ovation to a 3/4 empty room. See, Cameron, I said 3/4 empty and not 1/4 full. That displays my underlying perspective of the world at this time of my cycle. Good things happen to bad people and bad things happen to good people are both incorrect, in my opinion. It's just things happen. The cosmos cares nothing for us or our lives. Well, I take it one step further, or I see it a different way. Bad things happen to good people, but good things do not happen to bad people, because even when a good thing happens to a bad person, it's still a bad thing. And you know, it's not going to help that bad person. So I don't know what would make it a good thing. Like winning the lottery, that's not a good thing for a bad person. What's the bad person going to do with that? They're going to continue being bad. Also, I'm not sure that winning the lottery is inherently good, but whatever. Hold on. What was the good one? What was the good one, Candace? I remember. I said it. Now I forgot what it was. Damn it. Doesn't matter. So that's the fact check on. Don't worry, people. 83% increase in deaths among young people, but don't worry, it's not because of that. And by the way, does anyone think that proves a point? I've been saying from the very beginning, and not that I'm so smart, because I sort of leached this knowledge off of Barnes and other people who are smarter than me. I said François Legault's lockdown measures have killed more children than COVID. And then someone said, how do you know that? I said, I know that because even by Canadian standards, I think it was 14 or 19 deaths under 19 have been attributed to COVID of people under 19. And that's even assuming that the attribution is correct, because we now know that awful person out of Alberta, what's her name? Blonde hair, meticulous disinfecting of the hands, not Horgan. Someone's going to get it in the chat. Attributed the death of a 14-year-old boy, the youngest in Alberta, to COVID. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I forgot to mention he had stage 4 brain cancer and was in a coma, literally. Who was it? What's her name? I can't remember her name. Viva, have you heard the government trademarked the flag? I have not heard that. I'm going to go look into that. That would be interesting. So I said, François Legault, through his lockdown measures, have killed Dina Hinshaw, have killed more children than COVID itself. It's an indisputable fact. It's an indisputable fact. And I'm not going to go into, I'll get upset again. The personal things personal experiences of young people who have done very bad things to themselves, irreversible things to themselves out of distress. Personally, I know multiple, more, if not more than the official number of people under 19 who have died attributed to COVID in Canada. Very, very close. Britt Cormier, the universe created humans. I think not. We are part of the universe, but the universe does not know who we are. That does not know we are who we are. So it did not create us. We are just living in it. I'm happy to have this conversation at some point in the future, but now I have to go to work. Britt, thank you very much. Thank you for everything. Thank you for being out. You've been here for a long time, and I remember. Thank you for the support. And yes, it will. Look, I think we're saying the same thing, but with different words. And ultimately, at the end of the day, a distinction without a difference. Because nothing changes how we should act. God or no God, greater powers or no greater powers. Nothing changes how we should act while we are on this earth. So yeah, imagine saying, okay, there's a twofold increase in deaths among a demographic, but it's not from that. So go on with your day and don't blame us for being responsible for it, even though I think it's objectively, undeniably, indisputably true that these government policies have brought about more demise in demographics where there would not have otherwise been had they done this properly. And you imagine also, just appreciate cutting short a life of a 15-year-old with however many human years that individual probably had left, so as to protect ostensibly and do it badly someone who is already at end of life, 70, 80 years old, maybe had 6 months left anyhow, maybe had 3 years left. How do you measure this? Is it life for life? Is it aggregate years compared to aggregate years? Or is it just a logical approach to mitigate bad consequences in order to achieve the purported objective result? Yesterday's live stream with Dr. Risch was amazing, by the way. If I may say so myself, it wasn't long enough. I could have gone easily for 3 hours, easily for 4.5 hours, but we had a time constraint, which was actually on my end. But Dr. Risch said he's going to come back on, and we might get other fascinating doctors to come in and have a group discussion. But the one thing that Dr. Risch mentioned that I had never thought about was that in the early stages of this pandemic, when they were intubating and putting people on ventilators, and people knew relatively quickly that was causing more harm than good, I had never appreciated that one of the reasons for which people might have done that, doctors, nurses, and medical practitioners, was because everyone was so terrified that they were trying to prevent transmission of what they thought was airborne transmission. And so ventilating and intubating was the way that they thought they could treat these patients without exposing themselves or the staff to the Rona. Never even thought about that. Seeing some chats with which I might agree that I will not be bringing up. Allegedly criminal. No legal advice, no defamation. Allegedly criminal. Alleged nature lover. Okay, I said I might agree. Alleged. I was having discussed with Dr. Risch. There are things that do not make sense. They cannot make sense, but for very, very beyond incompetence reasons. That might have been whatever. I won't say the black pill. Okay, so that's one fact check. Let me just see here. No evidence. Is this the one that I just read? Oh, let's do a PolitiFact one. So that was one fact from a fact check from, I think it was called factcheck.org. Let's do another one here, because there's no end to the lies, the spin, and the dishonesty. This one relates to increase in deaths, because there's a statistic that I saw that I said, just because it confirms what I might be inclined to believe does not mean I'm going to run with it and believe it. And sometimes when they come from certain sources, I'm immediately skeptical, rightly or wrongly. Like there are news outlets, or there are information sources on what I would call the similar ideological perspective that I might be aligned with now, that I still won't believe, because they have unfortunately been guilty of misinformation in the past. Not mentioning any names, I'm not trying to embarrass anybody, but it's not Rebel News, and it's not True North, and it's Post Millennial. I think had one at one point, but it's not those. It's smaller individuals who I don't want to put on blast, but I still see information from them from time to time. Thank goodness PolitiFact found another explanation to a fact that was initially denied as being true in the first place. If anybody can find me the sources that say no, the 40% increase of all deaths in insurance was not true. If anybody can find that for me, because I know that I saw it, I just can't find it now. Please tag me, send it to me. I'd love to have it for my Twitter diary. But no, the Fauci isn't responsible for an increase in deaths. There's a good explanation here, by the way, which might, in fact, even in my mind, confirm this fact, this alleged fact. But let's just go to the fact check. The Fauci caused a 40% increase in deaths identified by a life insurance company. How many elements to this question, by the way? We're going to look at this like a lawyer asking a question in a deposition. How many elements are this? You have X caused. That's one element. A 40% increase. That's a second element, because if it's 20%, you can say fake. If it's 35%, you can say fake. So blank caused a certain specific number in deaths identified by a life insurance company. So you have three separate elements here. Any one of which, if it turns out to be true, if it wasn't a life insurance company, but it was, I don't know, let me just think of like an underwriting agency. They might not be a life insurance company, but they might be the ones who determine premiums. It could be a denied statement. If it's 38%, it could be a denied statement. If the increase is in fact accurate and it's confirmed by a life insurance agency, well, darn well they're going to deny it anyhow, because you have to draw the correlation to the cause that's indicated in the header. If your time is short, I take my time like I take me, short. One America CEO Scott Davidson said life insurance data indicates, this is from PolitiFact, people. This is not me. This is from PolitiFact. This is not even from One America. This is from PolitiFact. He said that indicates that death rates among working age people, and I believe that's 16 to 40 or 20 to 60. I don't know. It's not old people. It's working age. They'll tell us what the age is somewhere in here. Up 40% compared to pre-pandemic rates. Okay. Social media users have suggested that the Fauci, rather than the illness itself, are responsible for the increase in deaths. Working age people. Don't forget that. This fact check is suggesting that the Rona itself is the cause of the deaths. They're suggesting it here in a demographic which statistically we know has, qualify it yourself, but we know what the statistical rate of death or risk of death is among working age people. We know where the risk goes up 1,000-fold. That's not in working age people by the stats and by the data itself. But this is what they're saying here. So they're saying some social media users, those anti-Vs, those conspiracy Ts. I love this. I'm doing this actually just for fun, by the way. It's not actually. They're saying that some conspiracy theorists, social media users, the anti-vaxxers, they're suggesting it's from the Fauci juice, not from the virus itself, in working age people. Research indicates that COVID-19 is likely responsible for the increase. That's interesting. That's interesting. I mean, we know the stats. We have 2+ years of stats. We know what it is. You can go run working age COVID deaths. You can go look it up yourself. I'm not even going to do it here. But let's just see here. Let's just see where they confirm the fact. What's driving up the death rate? Oh, I love this. PolitiFact and other fact-checking organizations have repeatedly found that there's no basis for the claim. We have not investigated ourselves and found no basis for the claim. Let's just see. So that they're not denying the data. I want to get to the good stuff here because I don't want to read. Lancashire noted that because COVID-19 is a leading cause of death for Americans of all ages, a leading cause of death for Americans of all ages. Try to break that down. The illness would be a factor in increase in deaths. Davidson pulled his 40% increase from third quarter data, which includes July through September, and therefore aligns with a second spike in deaths the CDC identified. Yeah, the second spike. In what age bracket? I'm going to predict that second spike in deaths was not in working aged individuals. I'm going to make that guess. If I'm wrong, people, let me know. Our ruling. Post suggests 40% increase in deaths identified by a life insurance company was from the Fauci rather from the virus. Research indicates that the Rona is likely responsible for the increase, both directly and indirectly. Would indirectly, by the way, include the government response? These bad people. These are very bad people who do this. This now, throwing in the word indirectly, I would say that this is a correct conclusion. Research indicates that COVID-19 is likely responsible for the increase, both directly and indirectly. You know why it's true? Because these liars and dishonest people at PolitiFact will say government response that drove up unemployment, that drove up self-harm, that drove up drinking, that drove up the inability to get diagnosed with diseases, that's indirect COVID. I guarantee you they would make that argument. That's how dishonest they are. And by the way, if that's the argument, they're right. There is no evidence to suggest the V's are to blame. Okay. There's no evidence. Again, I don't know. There's no evidence for that. Although, by the way, even if they were to be to blame, I suspect they would qualify that as indirectly COVID. We rate this claim false. No evidence, they rated false. That's how PolitiFact, these liars, work. No evidence would mean inconclusive. To say something is false, you have to have evidence to show that it's false. In fact, the bulk of the evidence here supports that it's true. But I wouldn't say it's true. I would just say unsubstantiated. It cannot be determined. There's no evidence to suggest this. There's no evidence. There is an absence of evidence. Therefore, it's false. Oh, but it's the Rona because both directly, which we know to be probably statistically inaccurate, and indirectly, which we don't even know what that means. Outright liars. Sorry. There's no other way. There is no other way to qualify that. That is, maybe I'm just reading too much into it, and it's a little confession through projection, because I still see things through the eyes of a lawyer who knows that lawyers use and abuse of language and wordsmithing specifically for these types of reasonings. And I'm not going to say that I wouldn't be guilty of it myself. I know that when I drafted contracts, I would be meticulous in my wording so that it would cover everything and anything, so that it would protect my client, not so that I could weasel out and say, "Oh, it's just directly or indirectly." Everything on earth is indirectly related. Anyways, so that's it. It's type 2 diabetes, autoimmune, allergies, memory loss, all parasite symptoms. Medical industry stopped treating them in the 80s and wiped the medical literature. The problem didn't go away. It became profitable. I cannot confirm or deny any of this, Gerald Nadeau, but I do thank you for the chat. Kyle Cowden said, Nietzsche said, "I don't believe in God because I don't want to believe in God." That's the fallacy in expecting justice in a fallen world. It is inevitable. You might not realize justice here. Okay, look, I'm going to have to reread that afterwards. I read Nietzsche, didn't understand a lot of it, but I was young at the time. It is inevitable. You might not realize justice here. Okay, now I understood how that last line is meant. Or justice is just living well. Justice is its own reward. Goodness is its own reward. It's very philosophical. One day we'll have a philosophical musing of philosophies, but no evidence is false, people. Yeah, no evidence, by the way, and we haven't looked. There's no evidence Joe Biden was involved in Hunter Biden's misdealings, according to John J. Harwood, former journalist, now disguised spokesperson of the White House. Not even a spokesperson, spin master. Because you still expect honesty from a spokesperson, but a paid spin master is what he has. Words matter. If you think they are incompetent, you may be mistaken. They are taking actions that cause deaths without being liable to or prove. They are certainly they are establishing policy that seems to be resulting in an increased death in the year after the policy and while the policy is still ongoing. But that's you can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs, I guess, right? In order to protect grandma, we have to enact policy that results in an 83% increase in grandchild. Lost bullets. Viva got accepted to law school this morning in Saskatchewan. Can't decide between constitutional law or criminal law. First of all, congratulations. I do remember the day I got into my first university of law, my first university for law, how ecstatic I was, because I remembered at the very least I got into one. I'm going to law school. I don't know why I was so neurotic, because I did relatively well at McGill honors philosophy, but once you get the first insurance school and I don't know, Saskatchewan, I think it's a good school. U of S. Anyways, once you get into one, you're golden. So congratulations. You're lucky. You don't have to decide what you want to practice yet, and nor should you. Lost bullets. I say this with love and respect. You know nothing of the law right now. You know nothing of what you're going to want to practice as a lawyer. You actually need to practice it before you can even determine what field you want to be in. Thinking that anyone in law school first year saying, I want to go into constitutional law, or I want to go into criminal law, or I want to go into family law. You need to see the practice. It's like saying, it's sort of like saying what lake you want to swim in before you know the temperature. Or I'm good to swim in a cold lake without ever having dipped your toes in to see how blisteringly cold, breathtakingly cold it is. But congratulations and enjoy the journey. It's a good one. It's a good one, even if you end up not practicing, doing live streams in your car or your basement. It's a good journey, and the practice of law is good experience to have. A law degree is good experience to have, even if you never practice. Hold on, I just saw something here that I want to see. Curly girl method. Viva, you should look into trying the curly girl method. I have hair oil upstairs, which I'm going to have to reapply after I exercise today. So that's it. That's the fake fact checkers, It never ends. It never ends because they are paid liars. You don't need to call yourself a fact checker in order to fact check. And I dare say the second you do call yourself a fact checker, and I'm saying this even for myself, it's suspect. Research and just look into it, and you can come to your own conclusions, and other people will as well. But no evidence, therefore false. You're not a fact checker, PolitiFact. You're liars. You're spin masters, and I dare say you are ideologically driven spin masters. Last one. Okay. Okay, let me see this. What is not said? Okay, interesting. Not reading it, people, because I don't want to be accused of having promoted medical advice. Thank you. This is the thing. Like every morning I get up and I just don't know if there's going to be what to talk about without getting repetitive. But the dishonesty out there will always give original content to go over and just make sure everybody understands. Half of this is reading comprehension, and half of this is due diligence. And it can be trained. And once you acquire the skill, it's like riding a bike. You will never read a headline the same way again. You will never read an article the same way again, because you'll see how it's manipulated. You'll see how it's... What was the one that just came out? Oh, geez, it said the headline. Oh, it was a study. You know what? Let me get to this one. This is a fun one. It was a study that Nate Brody shared, and I'm not. This is no shade on Nate. I love Nate, and there's no but. He posted a study, which purportedly undermined the efficacy of one of the alternative, one of the taboo treatments to the Rona. And the headline, it's not his fault. This is the way the headline is run versus the article itself. Let me just go to Nate the lawyer. Here we go. Now I've got to go down to the study, which was, click the link. Where did I find the original study? Give me a second, people. I saw this before. Click the link. So here we go. So here's the title of this. Is an article from The Hill, because Nate was saying if you're going to discredit the New York Times for bias, The Hill ran the same story. The big I, ineffective at preventing the Rona. So interesting title here, because as far as I ever recollect, no one ever said any of these alternative treatments, which became highly politicized, were good at preventing. The affirmations were that they were potentially effective or potentially beneficial at treating. And look, you don't have to be a lawyer to understand there's a world of difference between prevention and treatment. Now, whether or not, even if you substitute the word, this is the headline. Ineffective at preventing. Thanks, Lisa Simpson. That's the answer to a question nobody asked. What does the article say? Are we going to get there? Okay. In Brazil, they did the study, yada, 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 yada. There are 3,500 people in Brazil. I think there might be a number of issues with the study in terms of this specific medication might have been widely used in Brazil as well. I have to go back and listen to my discussion with Dr. Risch, because I read this afterwards. Okay, let's see here. Here we go. Treatment with did not result in a lower incidence of medical admission to a hospital due to the progression of COVID-19 or prolonged emergency department observation. So basically the conclusion is treatment with versus placebo did not have any noticeable difference. Okay, that's the conclusion. So let me just see where there was... So bottom line, okay, they talk about what it's used for. There was a section where hold on, let me just see if I can find this. Treat. That's the word that we want to see. So go down. Here we go. In Brazil. So here they talk about treatment. So you go to the second paragraph of the article, which is headlined ineffective at preventing. And then you see that they already subtly go into treating and not prevention. That was the object of the study. How does the Hill, I don't care if it's left or right, how does the Hill run that headline? Because that headline's inaccurate. Nobody made this statement it was useful at prevention. The disputed statement was it might be beneficial at treatment. The conclusion of this study says no meaningful difference. Hold on, that stupid phone. It's a talking phone, and I hate it. Apparently, it's the door that's talking again. Okay, so I'm gonna have to disable that stupid phone. Treatment. So, but first distinction. Now, the conclusion of the study: ineffective. No difference. I want to close this without closing the tweet. I went because someone said go to the New England Journal of Medicine. That's the article where they published it, and just go look at the actual findings, which I did because I don't trust anybody or anything. This was the conclusion from the actual publication in New England Journal of Medicine. Total of 3,515 patients were randomly assigned to receive the medicine. 679, placebo, 679, or another intervention, 2,157. I'm curious as to how you ethically say, some of you are going to get a treatment, which we think might be effective, and some of you are going to be, you're not going to know. Bottom line. So let me rephrase. I don't know how they have a placebo group for treatment for an illness. I don't know ethically how that works, but setting that aside. Over 100 patients, 14.7%, in the Ivermectin group had a primary outcome event. So that in my mind means something serious or hospitalization, as compared with 111, 16.3% in the placebo group. And you see how they're measuring this now. So they're measuring the 100 and 111 in the overall 3,000 and not against each other. Again, look, I'm just a lawyer. I just know the questions I would ask of an expert if I were cross-examining them or prepping them and trying to understand their findings. They come to the conclusion that the 2.3% differential, which is itself based on the aggregate 3,000, which includes the 2,100 that got other, is insignificant. I look at it and I say 100 patients versus 111, that's upwards of a 10% differential among the relevant groups. So is that insignificant? I don't know. That's the question that I ask. I'm not sure I understand the methodology or how they could administer placebo to sick patients, but 111 primary outcome events or placebo group versus 100, it seems to be like a noticeable difference to me. And then there's the issue also when they mention here, they mention hospitalizations afterwards. Oh, here we go. Of the 211 primary outcome events, that's 211 including placebo and ivermectin, 81% were hospital admissions. But in the New England Journal, I didn't see what percentage of the 81% of hospital admissions were placebo versus treatment of those two groups. So that's the question that I have to ask. And all that to say, yeah, statistics lie. The three types of lies: lies, damn lies, and statistics. And I'm curious when they say, it's funny how you can measure it to come out with a statistically insignificant difference when you go 111 versus 110 of 3,000 versus when you just compare 111 of 110 seems to be 11 of 100 or 11 of 111, however you want to do it, is roughly 10% difference, which is significant. It's not insignificant to me. I'm in my dumb mind, I may be wrong, and I'd love for someone to tell me why I am. Many studies show effective at prevention. Okay, yeah, that's interesting. The study has many flaws. Dr. Ruchi, yeah, I know that he mentioned it. I have to go back and listen to it now, having read that particular study, which I think is new. Oh God, sorry. Someone told me, I got an email politely reminding me not to crack my knuckles during a stream. It's a habit, people. It's not deliberate or conscientious or conscious. I mean, I know when I'm doing it, but yep. Okay, so that's that. That's another one of the interesting, got to read things, get past the headline, because the headline says something which the body doesn't say. The body says something which the original source material doesn't seem to say. And you go to the source material and you have questions which were supposed to be answered by the bloody article in the first place. ECFMG, emergency care for Michigan Grande. I have no idea. I'm gonna have to look up what ECFMG means. U.S. doctor match program, not accepting anyone with Russian passport, blocking every single Russian doctor while country is at a massive shortage. Humans are not the smartest animal on earth. They're so silly that they think they are. I mean, there's nothing you can say. Nothing you can say to that. Give me 1 second here. I'm just going to go back and find another thing here. 30 seconds, people. Channel. Okay, here. I'm going to pull up another article for the next thing that we're doing, which is I'm gonna endlessly make the joke about firing the producer, or the producer's got to move faster. Okay, here we go. What was next on the list? Share screen. Now we read the fact check there. Oh yeah, the let's go with the comic relief. We're about an hour in, and we want to make this we want to lighten this up a little bit. I don't know if it's been said before, and you know, it was the day before yesterday. I had what I think was an original. I would say an original thought, but I think it was a thought that other people will have or may have had. But I think I was early on in catching it about the Disney exec saying, you know, we're going to insist on a certain amount of LGBTQIA cast or characters, or you know, or both. And I was like, yeah, that's going to actually promote dishonesty. It's going to promote grooming of sorts by asking people to confirm or prove that they are of the orientation that they say they are. And it's also going to condition people to, you know, to aspire to that if they have certain professional aspirations. All around, it's going to prove to be more conditioning and grooming. If that's what it's intended to do, I don't know. But a relatively original thought that even Dan Bongino picked up on and thought was brilliant, if I may say so myself. What the heck was I saying? Oh yeah, no. So another one of I think it's original, is that arrogance and ignorance are the most dangerous combination in a human. I suspect someone else might have had to have said it. But speaking of arrogance and ignorance embodied in one individual, I mean, look at Gavin Newsom right here. First of all, if one is going to pose for a picture, you know, and pose in such a manner, I mean, it has to be clearly ironic or comical, and not seemingly serious. Like, there is no element of humor or satire in here that would lend me to come to the conclusion that Gavin Newsom took this picture, made this post with any element of humor or self-deprecating. I'm pretending to be serious when I'm actually not a serious human being. This is a man who seems to think he's a comic book hero, but to me actually looks more like the comic book villain. But setting that aside, that might be my own personal bias, because he does remind me of Bruce Wayne, the guy who played Bruce Wayne, who has a temper. What's his name? The guy that played Batman, Christopher. Hold on. I'm not gonna be happy unless I see this. Who played Batman? Christian Bale. Christian Bale? Is that it? I think that's it. He does remind me. He gives off yeah, there we go. Thank you. He gives off a very Christian Bale vibe. But I see Christian Bale more in American Psycho than Batman. Setting that aside, here's his tweet. This is a man who's grossly ignorant, grossly arrogant, and probably thinks, and rightfully so, that he's above the law. But setting that aside, reading some banned books to figure out what these states are so afraid of. I don't know what states he's referring to, but I think he thought he was targeting Florida. And now let's go look at these books. I think the bottom one is Der Maus, or Mouse. I'm fairly certain it is. In fact, it is. It's art and looks like mouse. I can't tell what the one under there is. The beige one. 1984. I definitely know. To Kill a Mockingbird. I definitely know. Beloved, Toni Morrison. I had to look up. It's a book about slavery. Pulitzer Prize winning. I didn't know that book, but I'm not the most well-read person on earth, regardless. But imagine Gavin Newsom, you know, thinking this is a gotcha at what I think is Florida, reading some banned books to figure out what these states are so afraid of. Are you admitting, Gavin Newsom, that you had, prior to this staged arrogant photo where you seem to be, are you at the French Laundry? That was my joke. It's like, looks like he's at the French Laundry because he's not home. Nobody does this at home. I mean, unless you're, sorry, I don't want to judge anybody who does that at home. Let me stop there. Nobody does this at home. He's at a restaurant. This is a man who's sitting at a restaurant, sleeves rolled up like he's a damn rock star. He's in good shape. Give him credit for that. He's physically, and you know, you can tell by his face, he's in good shape. He's getting up there and saying, I have never read To Kill a Mockingbird or 1984 or Mouse. Mouse I could understand. I know we read it when we were kids. My dad had it in the house. I know we read it. I didn't find anything shocking about it ever. I don't remember very much about it. I just remember the depiction, you know, the animal depiction of humans. I read 1984. I know I read To Kill a Mockingbird. I don't remember a darn thing about it. But imagine being the governor of California saying, hey, I'm going to go read these books for the first time, presumably, to see what these states are so afraid of. That's the first aspect of this, the arrogance and the ignorance of, like, I've never read these classics, and now I'm going to go ahead for the first time to find out why they're being banned. Oh, I'm sorry. Where are they being banned? Apparently, Gavin Newsom doesn't realize it was California that banned To Kill a Mockingbird. Arrogance and ignorance, the worst combination. And I pulled an article from 2020. Schools in Burbank will no longer be able to teach a handful of classic novels, including Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird, following concerns raised by parents over racism. Trying to figure out what these states are so afraid of. You should have done a little homework before making a fool of yourself, Gavin. Mr. Newsom, Governor Newsom, Governor Gavin. And I don't know what other books were banned in California. And look, it's not to say that the books were not also banned in Florida. Some of them, Dr. Seuss was pulled. I don't know where it was pulled from. I am not a proponent of restricting books. I'll tell you one thing. I read American Psycho in high school. There's a funny backstory to it, but I will not. I may share it one day. Maybe I'll save some exclusive story time for vivabarneslaw.locals.com community. My English teacher in high school told me to go read them. She said, I think you'd appreciate reading American Psycho. Bret Easton Ellis. I read it. I don't think that book should be banned. I don't even think it should be banned. Well, from high school. I think if a parent allows their kid to read the book, they should be able to read it. Should it be mandatory reading? I think there is probably more timely classics out there than American Psycho. I think Less Than Zero is also, one of the book. I don't read all that many books, but it's one of the books where I read the book and saw the movie. Both American Psycho and Less Than Zero were phenomenal books, better than the movie. I liked Less Than Zero better than American Psycho. I thought American Psycho was, violence for the sake of violence. I appreciate the message behind all of it. I just remember from one of them, not The Price of Entry is Sin. That was a Arthur Brown song. What was it? What was their the opening to one of them? I think it was The Price of Entry is Sin. Anyhow, books should not be banned. Period. They should be age appropriate, and the parents should have the final say. So, but especially, how do you ban 1984? How do you ban To Kill a Mockingbird? Because it has a word in it that people find offensive when it's in a context that's intended to highlight, the wrongness of all that occurred. You think you're teaching people the right thing or denying them the ability to learn the right thing by banning these books? Gratuitous violence, gratuitous porn, fine. There's only so much time in the day that should be spent on the good stuff and not on the exploitive stuff. But 1984 shouldn't be banned. It should be mandatory reading. I presume I have to go back and revisit To Kill a Mockingbird. It should be, I presume, mandatory reading, not banned. The Invisible Man, Robert Barnes told me to read it. I listened to it on audio. It should be mandatory reading. See previous super chat. Justice transcends this world. I'll have to go see if I can still pull it up. Time for parents to unite to secure their parental rights and implement solutions that remove unsupervised access to kids and anything impacting their mental, physical health in school entertainment. That's ambiguous. I mean, Pont and I agree. The only question is, there's going to be unsupervised access in the sense that they go to school 8 hours a day. We should just know it's on the curriculum, and the teachers should stay the heck out of children's personal lives. Except though, if a kid's being bullied at school, if there's some issues, they should stay out of the kid's personal life in as much as any involvement has to be shared with the parents. Period. There are very few, reasons in schooling that anyone except maybe what do they call them? I went to see them when I was in high school. The people who give an advice counselor. You know what I'm talking about? Where there should be confidential discussion. I mean, a teacher should not know something about the kid that they don't disclose to the parents. Exceptions aside, and when those exceptions exist, the parents should know of that relationship of exclusivity. This is I'm not going to have a teacher thinking they know more about parenting my kid than me. I don't mind them having the discussions. I don't mind them teaching some stuff at school because we have the discussion with the kids when they get home. And if they're teaching them things that I think are politically charged, ideologically driven, political agendas, we'll have the discussion at home, and the kid's going to get exposed to it at some point in time. You can't shelter them from everything forever. Fact checked. Winston would make a more suitable president. Hold on. Winston, would you make a better president than Joe Biden? For those who don't know, he breathed heavily, and it was super cute. Okay. Oh, shoot. That's right. Eric, I'm going live with Eric. Which of Eric's channels are you going to be on? Let me just text him right now and find out. And that reminds me, I've got to vacate the bladder. Oh, sorry, that's part of the text now. Which channel are we going to be on? Question mark. I'll post the link in a few seconds. So that's it. So that's one more. The comic relief of today's stream. Gavin Newsom. These people. They don't stop. They don't stop for 1 second before stroking their own egos. They think they're owning somebody, and they move so quickly. I got to tell you something. Before I put out tweets that are sassy and that I think are owning somebody, I go through my own tweet history just to make sure that I have not been guilty of those things myself. The most recent one was, and I was fairly certain, I just didn't, I didn't want to forget, or I criticized someone. I said, you don't make fun of someone for what they look like. Don't call someone ugly. Oh, you're so ugly. Blah, blah, blah. I think, making fun of Nancy Pelosi's dentures, that's not my thing. I don't like it. I think it's cheap, and I think it's childish. Making fun of Beto O'Rourke's teeth in that picture where he's wearing the shirt, "Don't mess with kids, trans kids." Making fun of his teeth there and not the message of what he's saying is the wrong way to go. And so one time I said, when I was going to tweet out, "Don't make fun of people for what they look like," I went through my history just to make sure that I was not guilty of it myself. I did say that Justin Trudeau looked horrible in a tweet. And that was not to say make fun of him. That was, he looks horrible. He looks like the pressures of the job or the stresses of geopolitical situations beyond his pay grade or selling his soul. He looks physically beaten down. He looks physically unwell. And I attribute it to what's going on in the world. But that's not, that's a different, maybe I'm making excuses for myself, but I think there's a distinction there. It's not to say he's ugly. Look at his stupid socks. Although I've talked about his socks because that's a decision, not an unchangeable characteristic. Guidance counselor. Thank you. Yes. But these people, they think they're going to make an own. Well, let's go see what these stupid Republicans in Florida, they're banning books, those morons. Let's go see what's in them. A, I'm ignorant because I've never read the classics. B, I'm ignorant because I don't even know that in my own state they're doing the exact same thing. Congratulations. You played yourself, Gavin. Okay. Shayna Swan's book, Countdown. It's not a political book. It's a science book. Have a wonderful day, Viva. And Fro Cult, love you all. Candace, thank you very much. Enjoy the day. And above all else, it's Friday. For anybody with a normal work schedule, Friday nights were the best nights of the week. Used to be the best television nights of the week when we were kids. When TGIF actually meant something. Okay, I saw some chats in here. Let's see this. Ponton. My plan include implementing full surveillance video audio in school that is parent monitored with immediate response and actions to violations. This is good. This is like 1984 in school. This includes a classroom cameras and student body cams. The classroom cameras, by the way, it was during COVID that I saw I was watching what the teachers were teaching my kids. And if I were a malicious individual, I would have screen recorded and shared some of the things that I saw. Oh, laid back news. Hunley. See you soon, Eric. I'll see you soon. Laid back news, people. It's there. Now, how do I can't pin this one in the current section. So everyone, that's where we're going to be. Yeah, the stuff, I saw some stuff that, maybe people, this is where Project Veritas and James O'Keefe might say it's one of those times where you have to hurt people to share what's going on out there. I would prefer to have the private discussion first and then see where it goes from there. But my goodness, some of the things I saw, some of the teachings I saw in class, it makes for good parent-child discussion when the child's mature enough. Before the child's mature enough, you can't even have that discussion. They just get indoctrinated at school and they can't even understand why their mommy and daddy might contradict what their teachers told them. Okay, let's see what else there was. There was one more. Oh, that was Eric Hunley. Okay. So now, what else do we have? There's one more subject matter. Oh my God, we're running out of time. Let's just go to let's make sure we get this now. This is Michael Geist. We're going to talk Canadian law stuffs. But for Americans or anyone abroad in Europe, it's probably too late. You probably already have stuff like this. In America, if you think this is purely Canadian and therefore not of interest to you, may I suggest, stuff trickles downhill, as we say. And one way or another, Canada influences the US and the US influences Canada. And I dare say we influence each other. And that's why we're seeing this stuff. But this is Michael Geist. And if I'm not mistaken, I pulled this from his Twitter. No, I pulled this from a search. He's M Geist on Twitter. He's following this very closely. And his headline is, why has the government's defense of Bill C-11 been so cartoonishly misleading? And this is the new minister. He replaced Guilbeault, who was selling us on Bill C-10, who was also, I'm not going to say cartoonishly misleading. I'll take it one step further. Cartoonishly dishonest. And this, so Bill C-10, everybody knows it was supposed to treat online broadcasters. You know, it was initially sold as going for the Hulus, the Netflix, what else is there? HBO's online, to govern them the way the Broadcasting Act in Canada governs radio and television. The idea being that, you know, it's the modern era. Nobody's watching TV. No one's listening to radio. But so everyone's online. And so, you know, these broadcasters, which would have been governed on TV by the Broadcasting Act, are now operating freely on the interwebs. So the C-10 was going to put broadcasters under the governance of the Broadcasting Act, which would impose certain standards of content, certain criteria for Canadian content. It would require, I think, payment of certain amounts. It would provide for the imposition of fines in the event that those governed did not comply with the act. It was sold as only, you know, it was going to apply to broadcasters, YouTube, Hulu, Netflix, and whatever, because they have found a way to circumvent existing law. It became exceedingly clear that they wanted to govern all online content. And whereas at one point the concern was that, hey guys, what you're doing now is going to cover individual social media accounts. And they said, oh no, that's not our intention. That was Guilbeault. And I'm not going to make fun of him because someone can accuse me of making fun of what might be a speech impediment, and that's not my intent at all. So I'm not going to do it. But Guilbeault comes out and says, that's not our intention at all. We don't want to go after your social media account. It's just intended to govern broadcasters. In Bill C-10, for those of you who don't know, they included an exclusion. It said this law will specifically not apply to social media accounts, to individual YouTube channels, to individual Facebook pages, to individual Twitter handles. The Liberal government in the dead of the night removed that exclusion. And then they were saying, well, why'd you remove the exclusion if the law is not going to cover individual social media accounts? Why'd you remove the exclusion? Guilbeault says in a convoluted, incomprehensible answer, the exclusion, it doesn't matter. We're not going to include them anyhow. But we removed the exclusion that specified that we were not going to cover them. Then later on admitted, yes, we're going to come after individual social media accounts if they're big enough that they can be deemed to be broadcasters. The law died because it never got through the Senate before the parliamentary session ended. The law was dead. Bill C-11 picks up from there. That's the context. I just want to see one chat before it disappears. You know what? Forget it. So that's the context to Bill C-11, and C-11 is not the predecessor, the one that comes after. Why has the government's defense of Bill C-11 been so cartoonishly misleading? Bill C-11, the Online Streaming Act that serves as the government's follow-up to Bill C-10, was the subject of debate. It's got to be debated. There's a first reading, second reading, third reading, and then ascension. And I'm going to get clear on the process later. As the legislation slowly makes its way through the legislative process. There are still committee hearings to come, but it is readily apparent that many of the concerns that hamstrung Bill C-10 have returned. Virtually limitless jurisdiction, overbroad scope, and harmful discoverability provisions, because this would affect the way YouTube could display Canadian content. It was going to prioritize Canadian content, which means that it would deprioritize not Canadian content, even if it's created in Canada based on the law, which means that YouTube would have to algorithmically affect the viewability, the discoverability, which would prioritize certain content in Canada over other. And it would not be, I don't think it is now, but it would not be organically driven. So then we got, you know what, let's just read this here. While none of these concerns should come as a surprise, what is surprising is how ill-prepared the government appears to address the criticism. Well, they were ill prepared the last time. Why would an incompetent government be any better off to cover up for their misdirection this time? Indeed, the communication strategy seems based primarily on presuming that Canadians won't bother to read the legislation. They won't. And will therefore take misleading assurances at face value. They will. They did last time. Why would it be any different? They did last time, and then they re-elected the Trudeau government, albeit with a minority. They re-elected the very same government that misled them on the law that they did not take the time to read. Consider the latest attempt to assuage concerns. A cartoon of Canadian Heritage Minister Pablo Rodriguez providing an assurance that the bill's changes won't affect individual Canadians since the changes only apply to companies. The cartoon it only applies to companies. How about if those individuals are operating their social media platform through a company for whatever the reason? There's a lot of, you can think of nefarious reasons. There's a lot of legitimate reasons. Protection from exposure. Tax reasons. The cartoon sparked an instant mashup that pointed to the direct effects of on digital-first creators. Further, the changes don't apply only to companies. Bill C-11 treats audio-visual content as programs subject to potential regulations. This was the same thing under Bill C-10. With exceptions that could easily capture TikTok or YouTube videos, the bill is about more than just large companies. They made a joke that Bill C-10 was effectively the rebel media bill, where what it clearly intended to govern and therefore suppress were the alternatives to state-funded media. Let's see. Did you know, this is a tweet from the Canadian Heritage. Did you know the Online Streaming Act would not apply to digital-first creators? Users of social media services would never face obligations. Michael Geist has been reliable. Once again, this is misleading. Let's just read this in highlight. While it is true that users will not be treated as broadcasters due to the section, Section 4.2 opens the door to regulating their content. They might not directly face obligations, but if their content is caught by the act, the implications for digital-first creators is enormous and potentially damaging. We'll see what's in the bill after we pass it. Oh, so let's see here. I mean, we don't need to go through the whole thing. I'll clip this and you can read it. But the bottom line, it's just a little bit of history. It's a little bit of history repeating, recent history. The policy direction has two primary goals. First, it will focus on the importance of consultation and special consideration of the needs of equity-seeking groups. Second, the direction will make clear areas where regulation is needed, as well as areas where flexibility should be exercised. Concerned about the implications of the regulation of video games, Sorbo assured the House that the policy direction will also specify the government's intent when it comes to video games. And gaming is a very big industry in Canada, whether it's in Vancouver, Montreal, or here in Ontario. I will repeat again that video games are not to be regulated. How about Canadian? Nobody's going to read the law. By and large, nobody's going to care about the law because by and large, it doesn't, whether or not it could incidentally capture my mom's Facebook account, highly unlikely. That's not who they want to go after with it. That's not who it would indirectly capture in their net of any relevance or importance. It's not conspiracy. It is common sense that this is intended. First of all, it's a money grab. Everybody knows that. The government imposes regulations to create financial obligations and to create potential financial exposure from penalties. Yeah, I got to renew my license every year. And remind me, I got to do that again for my birthday. You don't renew your license? You get a bigger... I got the registration for my car, and I didn't sign the paper registration. I didn't sign it. I got the registration in the mail or wherever you get it, put it in my user manual in the car, didn't sign the piece of paper registration for my car. I got pulled over for speeding. I was going 128 in a 100. I came back from Ontario. Is this when it happened? Anyways, whatever. Ontario, the speed limit's 110. You get used to that. I got a ticket for not having signed my registration because apparently there's a provision in the Road Vehicle Safeties Act, whatever it's called, Code de la Sécurité Routière. You have to physically sign with a pen to paper your registration. I could have done it 30 seconds before the cop came to the car. I didn't know that this provision existed. $120 ticket for not having signed a piece of paper, which is the registration for my vehicle. I don't even understand the reason for it. More laws, less justice. It's in, don't renew your corporate filings, tickets, fines. Anyways, setting that aside. No, it's not miles per hour, people. It's kilometers per hour. Even when I speed, I don't do it recklessly. So it's on the one hand a money grab of those who should be governed, legitimately, if you want to call it that, by the law. On the other hand, it's just another money grab because people who don't know of the regulations, nul n'est censé ignorer la loi. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. Tickets up the wazoo. Annual filings, failure to file, whatever. Failure to respect certain provisions, tickets. It's good for the government. And then the indirect. This is intended to suppress directly or indirectly by downgrading some content so that YouTube does not promote it and promotes other content. Canadian content. Who do you think YouTube would be compelled to promote? If I'm thinking out loud, CBC, Radio-Canada, Legacy Media, good old Canadian content. Who would they suppress? Maybe not JJ McCullough, because he creates enough Canadian content that it might be. JJ McCullough is another Canadian YouTuber. Great stuff also. But maybe not JJ McCullough, because he creates a lot of Canadian content. Maybe they would even promote JJ McCullough. Maybe they would even promote me on YouTube. Or maybe they wouldn't if they don't like the maybe JJ McCullough or I might be a little critical of the government or favorable of the opposition. Maybe then, Anyway, so that's it. Bill C-11, I'm going to follow it. I'd like to get Michael Geist on so he could explain where it's at, the process, because I know it goes through public debate as laws should. Laws like vaccine passports, lockdowns, curfews, those should have gone through a public debate as well. Evidentiary hearings, et cetera, et cetera. Justin Trudeau's not a dictator. François Legault is not a dictator. They just passed legislation with no legislative process. But I know there's the debate process. I know there's a first reading, second reading, third reading. I know it goes through a vote in the House of Commons, the Senate, and then it gets royal assent. I don't know how long it takes. And I don't know where we are in that process. I just know that Bill C-11 is just as bad as Bill C-10. The attempt to cover up why it's just as bad as Bill C-10 is just as bad as when Guilbeault did it with Bill C-10. And in the interim, it could, if it passes, could and would meaningfully impact what we now understand and appreciate being the free internet. 'Tis not true. Nobody will read the bill. Many will read it. Many will send emails, call their MPs, senators, etc. When these avenues fall on deaf ears, many will show up in Ottawa and protest only to be shut down. What options remain? You can't save people if this is what democracy wants. They will vote themselves into their own silence. They can vote themselves into it. They just will not be able to vote themselves out of it because they won't be able to speak out against the government once a lot of these measures come into play. Your wife told you not to only give us bad news. Good news? It's Friday? Good news. Well, I don't know who's going to be on the panel with Hunley, but it'll be a good panel. So that, I believe, is all that I had on the menu. Hold on, let me just see one more thing here. No evidence, stream. Yeah, so that's what I had on the menu. Come on, the Gavin Newsom wasn't bad news. The good news is some people are fighting against it. Some politicians are fighting against it. The bad news? The bad news is it seems that the world is falling off a cliff faster than it can be caught, and it doesn't seem that there's enough people out there who want to catch it. And so you don't know where things go from here. Let me just go back to my Twitter feed. There was other fun stuff which I think we can finish with here. The Viva Fry. And then I'm going to go clip some of this stuff and post it to Viva Clips. Okay, so we did the we're going to be following the I won't say malicious prosecution, the unsubstantiated or ill-founded prosecution of Here, let's end on some good. Let me. I'm going to play the clip from Dan Bongino. Share. I won't play the whole thing because half of it is me talking, and for those of you who saw that yesterday, you'd have seen it already. But let's do this here.
Disney, a supposedly ridiculously claiming to be still a family-friendly company. They are the most anti-family company right now in America. Cancel everything associated with Disney.
I like Dan Bongino.
They're now saying that up to 50% of their cast and characters are going to be LGBTQ1A. I don't even know what the new thing is now. So I've been searching around for some interesting takes on this. And Viva Frey, who has a great locals account, by the way, he's on Rumble as well. Viva Frey has a great take on this. He says, for those of you out there who don't believe in incentives, have you really thought about this? Joe, this was a fascinating take. That if Disney now says that its parts and its characters are going to be reserved for LGBT roles and they can only be performed by people who are LGBT, or else you'll be accused of cultural appropriation or something like that. Well, doesn't that incentivize people to in turn make sure they fit into that role?
Huh.
Great point by Viva Frey. Here, check this out.
If you're going to do what
We
this
don't need to hear
Disney
that guy. Now, and then
do
just
Brilliant observation.
yes. Okay, so there. Look, it's tongue in cheek. It does feel good. It does feel good to be complimented for what you think is a worthwhile original thought. I'm human. Yesterday, I did 2 interviews with Maxime Bernier, one in French, one in English. Oh, here's the Beto O'Rourke. Don't mess with trans kids. And you know I don't think he appreciates the way that could be read. Beto O'Rourke doesn't appreciate that he just made a compelling argument against hormone therapy for kids. Like I don't understand what people think. I mean, respect, tolerance, and letting parents deal with issues with their children. I don't understand where this line is not respected, or where this line is. I just spat on my computer. Where this line is consistently crossed. Okay, that is. I think about it. Yeah, and then we got into that was yesterday. Oh yeah, here's a good one. Stephen Taylor, a politician, a conservative member. Am I blocked yet? I'm not blocked. Okay, good. He says, no, Justin Trudeau isn't a dictator. Canada is a democracy. Trudeau is just very wrong about a bunch of important things. It is vitally important to Canada that we effectively oppose Trudeau. You discredit yourself and don't help the rest of us by overreacting. I will respectfully disagree with your opinion, Stephen. And I will just go to the dictionary of the definition of dictator, a person granted absolute emergency power. I'm sorry, why didn't I circle that one? Because I'm fairly certain that's exactly what Trudeau did, if only for a week, if only to freeze bank accounts of political adversaries and to lock up political prisoners, if only for a week. At the very least, he was a dictator for a week. I circled one ruling in an absolute and often oppressive way. I think that's fitting. So I think, you may call it overreacting, and I think not calling something what it is not helpful. Now, where was I? Let's go back here. I think that's all right. Well, that's it. And then we got so do you like stuff? Oh, classic. Right on time. And that's it. So that will do it for this morning, people. If you want to continue, you know what? Hold on. I'm going to go back to the chat and just see if I have any questions here. That's it for the subject matter of the day. It's not just rage, and it's not to be blackpilled. This is going to be, in as much as Twitter is my ongoing diary, these daily live streams, or quasi daily live stream, not quasi, but almost daily live streams, they're going to be my therapy as well. And this is not just about talking it through and internalizing it and digesting it. It's about understanding it. It's about sensitizing other people to what's going on, so that people can be informed. People can know how to look at things. They can know how to read. They can know when they're getting lied to, and they can know how to do their own research to make sure that they can filter out their own, I say their own truth, but the truth between the lies. Now let's see here. Oh, it's April Fools. I really hate April Fools. I think it's, you get to be an adult and you end up hating April Fools because people think it's carte blanche to do really, really bad things. Okay, let's see if I got yeah, well, they're vitamins. They're vitamins. The red pill is vitamin C, D, and zinc, and the blue pill is I can't think of melatonin, something that helps you sleep. Okay. Canada is not a democracy. Well, and then people are going to tell you the US is not a democracy. It's a constitutional republic. We know the bottom line. Things are not working properly now. And there's only one way to make it better. And that's to try to sensitize people to what's going on. My biggest concern is that there are a lot of people out there who are now thinking a lot of uncivil discourse and uncivil conduct is justified because social media has allowed everyone to remove the person from the discourse. And so people just think now anything is justified based on ideological perspectives and ultimate goal, because we have removed the human from the human interaction. And right now it's just it's ideological interaction. And that is nicht gut, as we say in bad German. Okay, let's see what we got. I am telling myself March 32nd and skipping April. Yep. Especially when you have kids, they want to like, okay, the saran wrap on the toilet is funny for the kid. Although we now live in a house where, detritus, I believe might be the right word. Urine and feces on the ground is not the grossest thing on earth anymore, just because of our dog situation. Thank you, Viva. Bless you. Keep up the good work. Look forward to you every day. Jay, thank you very much. What do we got? Oh, let me test this out, people. Eyal Naman. Viva. Shabbat Shalom. Okay, that's easy. You don't even have to read Hebrew to be able to do that. Same to you. And now I know that what looks like an intertwined fist is the shekel. I never knew it. Yes, people. I can speak and read Hebrew. And I tried to learn German when I was 15. Nicht easy. It's not easy to learn another language once your brain has stopped developing in that sense. Viva, could you please someday have attorney Trisha Lindsay, civil rights lawyer, speak? I have not. I'm going to Google. I don't want to say I don't know who she is, as though that's it's my own ignorance. There's a lot of people I don't know about. I screenshot it. I'm going to look it up, and I'm going to be on. Hold on a second. Let me just get the exact name of the channel. I finally. Sounds good. Hold on, it's right here. Oh no, that's not the right one. Hold on. Just to tell you what's coming. What's coming? Don't Talk TV. Okay, Nicholas Wansbutter. I'm going to be on Don't Talk TV on April 20. I hope I did not double book something bad, but Attorney Wansbutter, I ran into him in Ottawa. I'm going to be on his show on April 20th. I think it's their 100th episode special. Viva, would you look into reaching out to Adam Kaut of the Firearm Policy Coalition for a sidebar? He's their leader counsel. A very knowledgeable Second Amendment, so American and not Canadian, I presume, based on your chat. Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, firearm discussion is not really. I mean, I have nothing against it. And maybe even have him on with Runkle of the Bailey, who's a firearms attorney in Canada. The issue has become something of a more pressing issue in Canada because of the prohibited firearms that have been covered by Justin Trudeau's order in council. Viva, we have ways of making you talk. Oh, yes. Very good. Let's see who we got here. Okay, Viva. Professor Matthew Hennigar would make for a great conversation on the Canadian Constitution. Oh, geez. Thanks for reminding me. I got to get Brian Peckford on. And I believe now we're going to be able to organize Brian Peckford. I'll go for it for next week. Is that a pink phone? Yes, it is. Because it's very difficult. I've said this many times. It's very difficult, or more difficult, to lose a pink iPhone case than a black one. Or oddly enough, I thought yellow was good. Yellow is no good when it's autumn and your phone falls into leaves. Pink is the best color to always be able to quickly find your phone if you've misplaced it. Viva works very hard. It's stuff I'd be doing anyhow, because I'd be reading all this stuff. I would be looking into it. I'd be trying to understand it. It's Ikigai. It's the most beautiful concept on earth. Hold on. Let's end it with the white pill, people. This will be something of a white pill. I'm going to get a graphic of this. I know I've talked about it before. Ikigai, meaning I want to show this. Here you go. Boom, shakalaka. Let me just do this here. Share 40. Okay, we got 15 minutes to the next live stream. That'll give me time to hydrate and dehydrate, if you get my drift. What is Ikigai and how can it change my life? It's beautiful. Let me just make sure that we're all seeing this so that I Get rid of that cookie thing. I don't want to. I don't want to reject it because then I won't be, reject. Okay, good. Ikigai is a Japanese concept that means your reason for being. Iki in Japanese means life, and gai describes value of worth. Your ikigai is your personal life of your bliss. It's what brings you joy and inspires you to get out of bed every day. Okay, that's very poetic. Get out of here. Sorry, not to be mean. I'm not subscribing. Here it is. Japanese concept meaning, and once you see this, people, you'll never unsee it. And I'm not saying like I still have trouble getting out of bed sometimes, and I still have trouble sleeping because unfortunately my ikigai means trying to understand the things that are potentially destroying the world in which we live, but whatever. What you love, what the world needs, what you can be paid for, because everybody needs to eat nonetheless, what you are good at. And it's beautiful. What you love and what you're good at is passion. What you're good at, I love this. I absolutely love this. What you're good at and what you can be paid for is a profession. And let me tell you this. I was good at being a lawyer. I got paid for being a lawyer. I did not have love for being a lawyer. And I'm not sure that the world needs another lawyer. Maybe the world needs another honest, good lawyer, but put that one aside. That's where it ends. I was good at being a lawyer and I got paid for being a lawyer, but I did not love it. In fact, I hated it. It, in fact, turned my stomach or stressed out my stomach. And then you got what you can be paid for, what the world needs, vocation. I've got to admit, I don't know the difference between vocation and profession. Oh, I mean, maybe you're not good at it. Okay, I see. So maybe what you can be paid for, you're not good at. I guess you wouldn't get paid for it very long. Or what you love, what the world needs, mission. When all of those overlap, people, when all for what you love, what you're good at, what you can be paid for, what the world needs, and I think the world needs honest truth. That's your ikigai. And it's the most, it was the one day where I understood, if you can succeed, if you can make money, that's not the expression. If you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And I was doing this before anything, before it was even a prospect of a sustainable YouTube channel. Ikigai, people. Beautiful. Okay, with that said, everybody, may I suggest that, oh shoot, hold on. Before we get there, let me just go to Rumble. I don't want to neglect anything there. Do we have any Rumble rants to address today? No. But yesterday, I forgot to get to them during the stream. Just scroll through all of my screenshots. Took a picture of dinner because it was very symmetrical. Oh, here we go. We had yesterday, HCLKBT says, can you comment on the recently published study showing that IVM does not work? We actually covered that one today. IMHO, there are at least 6 fatal flaws in the study, which was designed to fail, or the investigators were totally inept. That was from a $20 super rant, Rumble rant. Then we had $5 from Find and Truth. Thank you for speaking up. Then we had $5 from HCTBT. It says, resids used to hospital patients is illogical. Oh, the medication. By this time, most patients very ill and in hospital, post-viral. Remdesivir was not good. Not medical advice, I'm telling you, people. Okay, thank you. That was from yesterday. And then we had Viva, You Keep Freezing by B. Bapis, but I think that was his problem. Okay, so with that said, people, may I humbly request that you all, if you're so inclined, we're going to be on Eric Hunley. Great channel, Laid Back News. Eric Hunley with Mark Robert, America's Untold Stories. Just plug out. I don't know if Duran are still live with Coach Red Pill. And you all know where else to go for, even if you disagree with it, analysis. And you should get analysis from all sources, from people you agree with, because it feels good when someone you respect tells you what you already believe. It feels a little discomforting when someone you respect contradicts what you think you believe. And it is always good to challenge what someone is saying, even if you respect them and agree with them. Get someone else's opinion who disagrees with them, because you might actually just discover another element of truth in that. With that said, peeps, Sunday night live stream with Barnes for sure. And, we'll see what happens tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of the day, and I'll see everyone else on Hunley's channel. Peace.